Imagine standing in front of a building so beautiful it makes your chest tighten, and then realizing that same structure was designed to make you feel small, powerless, and utterly insignificant on purpose. Because that's exactly what Ottoman architecture was built to do. Not to inspire you, but to control you. And what's terrifying is that it worked so well that even today, centuries after the empire fell, we still don't fully understand the psychological tricks embedded in those domes and minarets. Tricks that shaped not just a continent, but the way entire populations thought about power, God, and their place in the world. And before we go any further, ask yourself this: why would an empire spend more on a single mosque than on feeding a starving province? And why did they want you to see that mosque from miles away, towering over every other structure, dominating every skyline, every horizon, every thought you had as you walked through their cities? Because this wasn't about religion, not entirely. This was about something far more calculated, something almost sinister when you peel back the layers of beauty and look at what's really holding up those arches.
So tell me, where are you watching this from right now? Drop your city and country in the comments below. I want to see how far across the world this story reaches. And if this made you see history differently, hit that subscribe button, because we're just getting started uncovering the truths that empires tried to hide. More forbidden history is coming, but only if you're ready to keep questioning everything.
Now let me take you back to 1453, to a moment when a young sultan named Mehmed II stood in the ruins of Constantinople, a city that had resisted conquest for 1,000 years. And instead of celebrating, instead of burning it all down like every conqueror before him, he made a decision that would change the architectural language of 3 continents. He decided to rebuild it, but not as a conquered city, as a mirror, a reflection of something greater than Rome, greater than Byzantium, greater than anything the world had ever seen. And here's where it gets strange, because Mehmed wasn't just thinking about buildings, he was thinking about memory, about how to make people forget that this city was ever Christian, ever Greek, ever anything but Ottoman. And the tool he used wasn't the sword, it was the dome, that perfect hemisphere that seems to float above you when you walk into a mosque, weightless, infinite, impossible. And when you look up at it, you don't think about the engineers or the mathematics or the thousands of laborers who died building it. You think about God or power or your own smallness, which is exactly what Mehmed wanted. Because architecture, real architecture, doesn't just shape space, it shapes minds. And the Ottomans understood this better than any empire in history. They understood that if you control what people see, you control what they believe. And what they believed was that the Sultan wasn't just a king, he was the shadow of God on earth. And every arch, every dome, every tile was proof of that divinity, encoded in geometry, written in stone.
But here's what they don't teach you in history class. Here's the part that most people never learn because it's buried in architectural treatises written in Ottoman Turkish that almost nobody reads anymore. The Ottomans didn't invent the dome. They stole it. Or more accurately, they took the Byzantine dome, the thing that made Hagia Sophia the most breathtaking structure in Christendom, and they reverse-engineered it, perfected it, and then turned it into a weapon. Not a physical weapon, but a psychological one. Because when Mehmed converted Hagia Sophia into a mosque, he didn't destroy it. He didn't even change it that much. He just added minarets, those 4 slender towers that rise like swords into the sky. And suddenly, overnight, the greatest symbol of Christian architecture became a symbol of Islamic triumph. And the message was clear: we don't need to erase you. We can absorb you, transform you, make you part of our story, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. And this wasn't just about one building. This was a blueprint, a strategy that the Ottomans would repeat across the Balkans, across North Africa, across the Middle East. Everywhere they conquered, they built, and everywhere they built, they reshaped reality itself, making the empire feel eternal, inevitable,
like it had always been there and always would be. And the genius of it, the truly disturbing genius, is that it worked so well that even after the empire collapsed in 1922, the buildings remained, still towering, still dominating, still whispering that same message: you are small, we are infinite. Now let me introduce you to Mimar Sinan, a man whose name you've probably never heard, but whose work you've definitely seen. Because Sinan wasn't just the greatest Ottoman architect, he was arguably the greatest architect in human history. And yet, outside of Turkey, he's almost forgotten, erased from the Western canon of art and architecture. And you have to ask yourself why. Why would a man who built over 300 structures, including mosques that rival anything Europe ever produced, be left out of the story? And the answer is uncomfortable. Because recognizing Sinan means recognizing that the Islamic world, at the height of the Ottoman Empire, wasn't just equal to Europe, it was ahead. It was more advanced, more innovative, more sophisticated. And that doesn't fit the narrative we've been told about the Renaissance, about the Enlightenment, about Western superiority. So Sinan gets left out, and with him, the truth about what Ottoman architecture really was, which wasn't just beautiful, it was revolutionary. It was a fusion of Byzantine grandeur, Persian elegance, and Islamic spirituality, all filtered through a uniquely Ottoman vision of power and permanence. And Sinan understood something that most architects never grasp, that a building isn't just a structure, it's a story. And the story his buildings told was this: the Ottoman Empire is not temporary, it is not fragile, it will outlast you, your children, your children's children. And even when we are gone, these stones will remain, testifying to our greatness long after your memory has faded into dust. But here's where everything you think you understand flips upside down. Because while the Ottomans were building these incredible monuments to imperial power, they were also, quietly, building something else. Something that contradicts the entire narrative of domination and control. They were building public works, caravanserais for travelers, hospitals for the sick, schools for the poor, bathhouses, fountains, soup kitchens, entire complexes designed not to glorify the Sultan, but to serve the people. And this is the part that breaks the simple story, the part that makes you realize the Ottoman Empire wasn't just about conquest and oppression. It was also about community, about infrastructure, about creating a system where even the poorest citizen had access to clean water, medical care, and education. And this dual nature, this contradiction between the imperial and the humanitarian, is what makes Ottoman architecture so complex, so difficult to decode. Because you can't just look at a mosque like the Süleymaniye in Istanbul and see it as pure propaganda. You also have to see it as a place of genuine worship, genuine community, a place where people came together not because they were forced to, but because it was beautiful, because it was welcoming, because it was theirs. And this tension, this push and pull between power and compassion, between control and care, is embedded in every stone, every arch, every tile. And it's what makes these buildings so emotionally powerful even today, because they reflect something true about the human experience, the fact that we are capable of both cruelty and kindness, both domination and generosity, often at the exact same time. And now we arrive at the question that will haunt you long after this video ends. If Ottoman architecture was so advanced, so beautiful, so meaningful, why did the empire fall? Why couldn't these stones hold it together? And the answer is that architecture, for all its power, for all its ability to shape minds and memories, can't fix a broken system, can't stop corruption, can't hold back the tide of nationalism and revolution. And by the 19th century, the Ottomans knew this. They knew the empire was dying, and so they started building differently.
They started copying Europe, building Baroque palaces like Dolmabahce that look like they belong in Paris or Vienna, not Istanbul. And in doing so, they lost the thing that made their architecture powerful in the first place. They lost the distinct voice, the unique fusion, the thing that said, this is Ottoman, this is ours, this is who we are. And once you lose that, once you start trying to be someone else, you've already lost. The empire is already over, you just don't know it yet. And that's what those later buildings represent. Not strength, but desperation. Not confidence, but imitation. And when you walk through them today, they feel hollow, like a ghost trying to haunt a house it no longer owns. And maybe that's the real lesson here, the real warning that Ottoman architecture whispers to us across the centuries. Beauty without purpose is just decoration. Power without legitimacy is just force. An empire without identity is just waiting to collapse. And every dome, every minaret, every arch is a reminder that nothing lasts forever. Not Rome, not Byzantium, not the Ottomans, not us. But what does last is the story we tell in stone, the message we leave behind. And the Ottomans left us a message so powerful, so complex, so hauntingly beautiful that we're still trying to decode it, still trying to understand what they were really building, and whether we're still living inside the structures they created, invisible walls and invisible domes that shape our world in ways we can't even see.